Viewers, welcome back. I've just been had a quick email from one of my colleagues in a company that I used to work for, and he's asked me if I've got anything related, because he's been watching the videos, and he said, have I got anything on HAVS? I said, well, I have got something in a bit of a PowerPoint type presentation, and he's asked me if I could just put it up on the video. So I thought, well, that's a good idea. Let's give that a go. So what I've done, I'm just going to make this quick video, just going through a HAVS presentation, just to give a brief understanding, and it's mainly for Peter. But you're welcome to tag along and enjoy. So what is HAVS? It's a disorder which affects the blood vessels, nerves and muscles of the hand, wrist and forearm. It can be severely disabling and is better known as vibration white finger. Vibration white finger, as I'm well aware of, is we used to be very predominant in the coal mining industry, when we were using the drills to drill up the shore bolts for the roofing systems, and even drilling into coal faces in pre-mechanical age. It was very prominent. But HAVS has been identified for several years really, and it's still a fairly new issue to some people. But it's important for operatives to understand that the issue is very big and has recently come to more attention of the HSE more than ever before. But HAVS in itself cannot be dealt with in one toolbox talk or presentation, but it is the beginning of the journey really, as of the awareness. So approximately 1 million workers are exposed to high levels of vibration. Of those, 460,000 are estimated to be working in construction, which is not really surprising. 242,000 cases of HAVS are reported every year. That is surprising, but that was based on in November 1999, so it's quite old, but I'm imagining it's still quite predominant. So what are the symptoms? It's tingling and numbness in the fingers. In the cold and wet, fingers go blue, then red, and are painful. A bit like an extreme version of hot aches. You can't feel things with your fingers. Your pain or tingling in your forearms at night, which stops you sleeping, and a loss of strength in your arms and hands. The symptoms are usually after exposure to vibration, obviously, and when the fingers turn white, blood flow is impaired and the feeling is lost because of that. As the blood returns to the finger changes colour and becomes extremely painful. As you can see from this finger, this picture of the finger, that is a classic example of white finger, and I used to see that quite often in old collieries down a coal mine. You know, that's usually the arm that's pushing on the drill, you know, with the finger, and it's constantly vibrating. Quite nasty. Okay, but stage one is where the tips of the fingers turn white. This is a point where the operative should raise the issue with site management. I would say it's probably a bit before then, but that's obvious there. So who will be at risk of HAVS? It's usually breakers or pokers, sanders and angle grinders, hammer drills and that type of thing. Users of scabblers and needle guns, and users of drills and jigsaws, which is self-explanatory. But anything that produces vibration, usually a tool that you have to put pressure on to get the tool to do what you want it to do. So the more pressure you put on, the more vibration it produces as the machine kicks back, and that's where the vibration comes from. So, and it also affects those with diseases that reduce blood flow and workers in cold and damp conditions, which is exactly what they're referring to as in the construction industry and in the coal mines, which obviously are not much of a feature anymore, but they were predominantly back in the 80s when I was down the coal mines. So how can you prevent it? Ask for low vibration tools, which, you know, a risk assessment will identify something that's got high vibration, and there's not many tools nowadays that don't conform to the vibration requirements. But you can try a different approach to your job. Use the right tool for the job and keep blades and cutting edges sharp. But that's not going to eliminate it. It's only going to be reduce it, and only while ever them blades and the cutting edges remain sharp. But ultimately, the more pressure you have to put on that tool, the more vibration you're going to get. It's such a big issue that many companies who manufacture tools now make them low vibration. It is also mandatory for the information on vibration created by tools that it is made available by the supplier. The supplier has to provide the acceleration level of the tool expressed as in meters squared second, meters per second squared, I think that's how you say it. The maximum exposure level is 2.8 meters per second squared over 8 hours. Now that means nothing to the average working man. The reduction in the vibration is felt at the point of use, i.e. when you're using the tool. But an assessment should be carried out to ensure that staff are not exposed to high levels of vibration. And this will obviously be carried out by your safety officer or your safety team, safety committee, whichever. But you will have some companies, especially in large construction companies, have forums where things like this are brought up. Okay. So you can also check the tool has been properly maintained, which I don't think it'll reduce it that much, but it all helps. Reduce the amount of time you use the tool. Well, that is obviously job specific. You might have to be using this particular blade or machine for, say, 6 hours a day or whatever. Keep the handles warm. Well, they're going to be kept warm if your hands are vibrating around, and I can assure you of that. So, because blunt blades and worn bearings can increase vibration in tools. Machines that are defective or not working correctly should be changed or repaired. Well, that goes without saying. You should have some pure risk assessments to make sure that these checks are carried out. If possible, reduce your exposure by job rotation, more or longer breaks, not in the canteen but on different types of work. Use tools with plastic handles, as steel handles are cold and tend not to keep warm. You don't get many steel handled tools nowadays, but they do still work in some organisations. But keep your hands warm to improve circulation, wear gloves and keep steel handles warm if there are any. All self-explanatory really. So you can help to prevent it also by improve your blood circulation by keeping warm, wear gloves, giving up smoking. They always put that one in. Smoking drastically impairs blood flow through the body. Massaging and exercising fingers during work breaks. Yeah, I mean there are things you can do, and they are, perhaps they have been proven to benefit, but the ultimate benefit is to replace that tool for something that doesn't vibrate really. And like in cold, in low temperatures, the body attempts to keep the warm blood close to the vital body organs such as the heart, lungs and kidneys, and as a result the extremities of the body such as your fingers and your toes are starved of blood and sacrificed as part of the body's defence mechanism. So that's why it's white, because there's a lack of blood cells in there. So apparently placing your fingers in the warmest parts of your body when resting helps, such as armpits and groin. But you're not going to sit in a canteen really with your hands down your trousers, because people are going to wonder what you're playing at. But yeah, it all helps. But sometimes when the HSC and organisations like this come up with reduction methods, I don't really think they always think out of the box, to be fair. So, learn to recognise the signs of HAVS. Stop work and report any symptoms to your supervisor immediately. That's a key one really. If you know there's a problem, don't suffer in silence, tell somebody. You'll not be the only one, but you might be the only one that's going to speak up and improve things for everybody else. You can also use any control measures provided, i.e. gloves, etc., that your employer has provided. There'll always be PPE, and that will begin with risk assessment based. So if you're using a machine and you don't know whether you should be wearing gloves or any other protective equipment, ask to see the risk assessment. You're legally entitled to see and review a risk assessment. In fact, it's a requirement that you do see the risk assessment. Because these risk assessments are carried out to see what the hazards are and what the likelihood of that hazard is causing injury. And if you don't see it, you don't know. So a lot of companies can just produce a risk assessment. Sometimes in some companies that I've been to in my consultancy days, when I said, well, let's have a look at risk assessments, very often it's one they've just plucked off the internet. They've not even amended it to suit their own company. So it's worth asking to see that. And if you've got a safety department or a safety risk, ask them for advice. Because if you've got you think you're suffering with HAVS or the start of HAVS, and you don't report it, it will mean that the disease will only get worse. The fingers will eventually turn red and then black. Infection will then follow, and in extreme circumstances, fingers can be lost. Pain is severe and often felt only when resting. But it is, if you're working for years on end and not doing anything about it, it will be permanent. And I don't want to see anybody long-term suffering. I've seen plenty of old colliers suffering because collier down the coal mine, usually it's a case of bravado. For instance, I have it's totally unrelated, but I have extreme arthritis in my knees, and that's caused by crawling around underground without knee pads on. Knee pads are provided, but if you wore knee pads, especially as a young kid as I were at 22, if you wear knee pads underground, you're going to be ridiculed, being a sissy and all that sort of stuff. And it's not acceptable, and it's certainly not in this day and age. But some older colleagues used to say, "Oh, you'll regret it when you get older," and you used to think, "Yeah, get away with you, man." But it's true, because I'm paying the price for that now. It's not vibration, but it's again caused by ignoring advice. But treatment and understanding at an early stage is crucial. HAVS is a chronic condition, which means that it accumulates over a period of time. And white finger will not occur straight away, but builds up and can creep up on people unless they are aware of the symptoms. It's widely held opinion in many professions that many operatives detect the symptoms away from work and do not associate the problems with the work activity, but then carry on until they can no longer work and drift away to other industries, or it becomes so bad that they never work again, as in some of the old colliers. So I mean, that's part and parcel of it, and that's exactly what the point I'm trying to prove. You think, oh yeah, nobody else is complaining about it, it's just me. So I'm not going to come across weak and a bit of a wuss and by reporting it, but you will suffer for it in your later life. So, and like it says on the final screen, once you've had an attack of HAVS, you'll always be at risk. And if you don't, like we say, I can't stress the point enough, if you don't alert somebody to somebody that a particular tool or machine is causing a problem, then they might not know or might not put something in place to reduce it or even replace the machine or tool altogether. So you'll be doing a service to your boss and to fellow work people if you do actually change it. Go and speak to your supervisor and say, this tool is causing an awful lot of vibration. And if they say it's not, it's rated and everything else, if they're qualified and authorised and trained to use that tool, ask them to have a go. So, well, you have a go with it then, see what you'll think. And then even if they don't agree and admit it straight away, when they're walking away from that tool, they might just think, yeah, it's got a point actually, it is actually overbearing. And they might just go and do something about it, and before long you should find out that machine has been replaced. So just as an awareness, it's a simple, very brief, basic talk about HAVS. I intend, if people like them, I intend to do a lot of other talks on other issues. So if you've got any burning issues within your organisation that you want to know a bit more about, whether you want to know just by watching a video or whether you want to know on a one-to-one through email or something, then just let me know. Get in touch, send me a message, and then I'll try and help you. I like most of you, in fact probably the biggest part of you are in the safety industry. Some of you are just starting out, as I find out since I started this channel. Some people are just starting out and saying, I've been asked to take over the health and safety for the site. The previous health and safety manager or officer has destroyed or deleted the files, which is disgraceful, but it does happen. So I said, well, if that's the case, I am a consultant, And I have been for quite a few years. At the minute, I'm just working part time for various companies, but I don't do it full time. But I still, if any of my friends on this channel has got any advice that they want, or something to try and help them, or help with a risk assessment or a safe system of work or whatever it happens to be, then just send me a message. I'll help you out and I won't charge. It's it's a payback really to the help I've had in previous years, because I was like probably some of you might recognise a pattern, whereas you're in a particular role, where I was in a lower management role, and I started with a particular company in 2001 as a domestic appliance engineer, teaching people how to repair domestic appliances, because that's what I was doing when I left the coal mines. I did that for 22 years, but eventually that particular part of that business was being folded, and so they said, well, that is now going. If you want to remain in a job or take redundancy, but if you want to remain in the job, then we'd like you to take on the health and safety role. And very often, in many walks of life that I've been in, the health and safety officer or coordinator has got that role because nobody else wants it, and they're being cajoled into taking it. If the training is provided along with it, then that's fine and that's all well and good. But if not, then people are struggling. That's what I'm finding with the messages that I'm getting coming through, saying actually I didn't want to mention it publicly on the channel or on the Facebook forum, but I'm struggling with this. And there's a couple of ladies I could bring to mind straight away, where they've been put in a role and they felt that they were forced into doing it. They knew nothing about it, and there's no money available for training, which is ridiculous, and it's adding too much stress into an already stressful situation. And especially, in health and safety nowadays with COVID, and the requirements and recommendations around keeping people COVID safe, health and safety has never been as prominent in today's society as it is today. So if I can help anybody out, send a message. It doesn't cost anything, and I'll help you out, even if it's like looking at a risk assessment you've done or a safe system of work that you've done, and just see if there's areas where it can be improved. Obviously I need to know a bit more about the organisation you're in without actually knowing any personal details of the company, but I will help you out, and come across, and together we'll come across with the best solution. Okay, so as always, keep safe, guys, and I look forward to seeing you guys again very soon. I don't know what the next video is going to be. It'll probably be on the dashboard. You'll see on this channel there are plenty of videos on the dashboard which I've been working on for many months. A lot of you not just on Facebook and on YouTube, but on other platforms are messaging, and I'm spending quite a lot of time in my day sending out this dashboard to people to try and to see if they can utilise it in their own organisation. Okay, so keep safe, guys. See you next time. Bye bye.